right thumb and will be out for Week 17 against the Cardinals. He could be back for the postseason if the Rams advance. In the meantime, quarterback John Wolford will be under center for LA. Mina, how confident do you think the Rams should be with Goff under center?
Well, not very confident, unfortunately, Charlie, based on what we've seen from Goff this season, which, regardless of the situation with the thumb, if they make it to the postseason. I believe at one point, my fellow debater Domonique Foxworth said they were better than the Seahawks, best team in the division. He has been proven incorrect, and it's largely because of the play at quarterback. Jared Goff has struggled this season. He's been inconsistent because of how poorly he's played under pressure. 30th in yards per attempt, 28th in QBR, leads the league in turnovers. He's tied with Drew Lock when he is under pressure, and that's been really the Rams' biggest flaw because this is one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. Frankly, it would be a shame to waste it. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey have been amongst the most dominant players at their position, and yet, because of Jared Goff's propensity for turning the ball over and making those crucial mistakes when he is pressured, this team can't hang, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, why are you bringing up old stuff? Like, maybe I did say that, and maybe I happen to be wrong at the time, but it wasn't because I had any faith in Jared Goff. Like, I think Jared Goff is, I texted you this analogy a while ago. Jared Goff is a curling stone. Like, Sean McVay slides him out there, and then everybody else around him is just brushing, trying to make sure that he gets to the spot where he belongs. And if you do not brush fast enough, then your team will not be very good. And I thought that the guys you mentioned on that defense were going to do enough, and that offensive line, that running attack was going to do enough to make them better than the Seahawks in their division. They were not. I was wrong. They should not have a ton of confidence in Jared Goff. We've seen how far they can get with Jared Goff. They got all the way to the Super Bowl with behind the strength of a great running attack and some excellent coaching. So maybe it's possible, especially now that they have kind of focused more, it seems, strategy-wise on their defense. But as we talked about earlier, defense is fickle. The way that the rules have changed and the game has changed, it seems to me that you can rely on your offense to return year after year and week after week, a lot more you can rely on your defense to do the same thing. So I love that defense. That's why I picked them. And I don't love Jared Goff. That is why I am not as confident in that team anymore. I think that defense they're going to have to score more points on defense or get a shorter field for Jared Goff, continue to do more and more. Why you give me that look? Don't give me that look. What does that mean?
Well, I just think it's interesting that you're saying accurately that great defense is inconsistent year to year when earlier you were saying the Dolphins would probably challenge the Bills next year because of their great defense. I don't know what happened in between segments. Perhaps you had a slight change of heart. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a logic expert.
Once again.
It just seems to be a little bit of inconsistency.
Once again, stop bringing up old stuff. Go ahead, Mina. What else you got?
That was 15 minutes ago. I'll say this about Goff. I'm going to say one thing in his defense. Because, when we go to these playoff teams or playoff contenders, we try to find the flaws, right? And with the Seahawks, it's the pass defense, although lately perhaps the offense is not as explosive. With, the Packers, it's the defense or the run defense. With the Rams, it is quarterback. That is their biggest flaw. That said, Jared Goff has had good performances this year. I think he's inconsistent and exploitable, and he has struggled under pressure, but there have been games, earlier in the season in particular, when he did impress me, when the play-action game is clicking, when they're able to keep him, out of third downs where he can't go into play-action, has to drop back with the run game. So for the Rams, it's really contingent upon matchup, because if they play a defense that doesn't really have the ability to pressure them or contain that bootleg, the play-action passing game, and that offense can stay on schedule, they can win games. But is he going to win them games on his back? Absolutely not.
I mean, what's the difference between him and Wolford that they're bringing in there now? Or Wolford that they're bringing there now. So I think everything you said about Jared Goff is true. I agree with it. And I think that sometimes we're a little too harsh on the quarterbacks. Jared Goff isn't awful. And my joke about him being a curling stone is mostly just a joke. Jared Goff has arm talent. He's able to make really incredible throws. He's just so inconsistent. And that's the problem. But what happens to them when they go to the backup quarterback? I know no one knows this Rams roster better than you.
Yes. By the way, to your point about the curling stone, that's true of many quarterbacks in these Shanahan-derived offenses. You could look to Minnesota, Cleveland, Tennessee, we saw where, once that play-action game isn't clicking, they struggle. It doesn't mean they're bad quarterbacks. It just means they're not in that elite tier with the Rodgers, Wilsons, now the Allens of the world who can elevate the offense. That's fine. That's hallowed ground. As far as John Wolford, who they need now to win this football game to get them into the playoffs, oh, wow, we got a whole graphic for him. So the reason I've watched him play a fair amount is that not only was he...
Why does his hair look like the logo? I'm confused. How did he do? Did he do that on purpose? He got his hair to look like the Rams logo at the same time? Anyway, Mina, go ahead.
I actually think, not to go in the opposite direction, give the most white people reference possible, but he kind of looks like Ed Sheeran.
Who the hell is Ed Sheeran?
The shape of him is very different from Jared Goff, actually, because he's an extremely mobile quarterback. I know this from calling the preseason games. He is fast, man. And so I expect to see a lot of RPOs, a lot of zone read, very different offense, which, Domonique, I actually like for the Rams, because unless you have a top-tier backup quarterback, I think you're better off with a changeup. Like the Cardinals' defense has what are you doing with your phone? They've got no idea what's coming with John Wolford.
I'm Googling Ed Sheeran. I don't know who that is. Anyway, proceed.
You don't know what he looks like?
It's Ed Sheeran.
I never heard.
This is like Sharon? When I had to explain to you what Friends was about. I get it. I understand my role here.
I mean,
you talk about.
And guys, I think it's important if you can't play the part, at least he looks the part, right? I mean, he's never even appeared in an NFL game since going undrafted out of Wake Forest in 2018. So at least he has the hair swerve going with the logo. All right, well, let's move on here. We still have some more topics to cover on First Take. We're going with the team that is definitely not going to the playoffs. They have had one fail of a season, and now Doug Peterson says he's still the right guy to be the head coach in Philly. Do our debaters believe it? Jeff Saturday and Kimberly Martin joining First Take for that one. Coming up.